This is season 4, and I am on a mission to help creatives become the most loved versions of themselves. I want to help you step into health in every single area of your life and pursue the authentic creative expression that you feel called to and that only you can. The world feels crazy right now, and we need healthy creatives more than ever. So let's get into it. I'm Courtney Lancaster, and this is the Heal Create podcast. Welcome to another episode of the Heal Create podcast. I am Courtney, and I have my best friend and marriage and family therapist, internal family system certified, expert, genius, brilliant woman, Miss Stephanie Bagato. Hi.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Of course. We're going to talk about emotions today. We're going to talk about emotional health and being with your emotions. That's something that you have been really passionate about teaching people how to do and explaining. And so I wonder, because this month we are all about emotional health, if you could explain in your own words what emotional health is, mostly because I think it gets really confusing.
Mm-hmm.
It's really confusing, especially when we bring in like transformation language, like limiting beliefs and pushing past your fear and doing the thing. And that sometimes feels like it's in contrast to emotional health and softness and understanding and all of that. So can you just let us know your definition or how you would explain what emotional health is to someone?
Yeah, and I'm sure you'll get lots of different definitions about this. How I perceive emotional health is kind of the understanding what am I feeling, labeling that, so having a name for it, and the experience of it. And so kind of being able to have all those components in a way of navigating them, recognizing what it is, naming it, and also the experience of it. And the reason why I think I look at it a little bit differently now is because I realized what I wasn't doing with emotional kind of my relationship with my emotions. And I would have said I did have emotional health because I was really good at naming them and explaining them. But now recognizing,
Right.
yes, this other component of actually experiencing them is totally different.
Yes, totally. Understanding your emotions and being with your emotions are two totally different things.
Yeah.
So what did you used to do? What happened when you used to just try and understand your emotions, and what was the problem with that? Why is that so bad? Can't we just read about emotions and be fine?
Yes, that's exactly. Well, which I am not opposed to that being my starting place. I just didn't know that there was another place to go to.
Yeah, right.
So initially what I would do, so I would have a sensation or a physical sensation to my emotion. No clue. Had no idea that was happening. So
like you didn't recognize the emotions, how they were showing up in your body?
Yes.
Okay.
So I didn't clue in to me having an emotion until I could rationalize it or logic it away or think about it. So once I was able to clue in, like, oh, I feel funky or sad, then I would be able to be like, oh, okay, I feel sad. Well, why do I feel sad? What has been happening for me to feel sad? Well, what could I do to not be sad? So it was very much in my head of how I could think about my emotion, how I could rationalize my emotion, how I could process my emotion and get out of my emotion, all without ever feeling my emotion or being with my emotion.
Yeah.
So I had this experience once with my therapist where she was like, it's like your emotion is sitting on a bench and you like at a park and you're standing there looking at that person at the bench.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, she seems really sad. And I'm like, wait, so what's the difference? Like, what else would I be doing? And it was very new for me to realize, like, how could I go be with the person on the bench? How could I be with them in that experience instead of just narrating from afar what they were experiencing?
Yes, totally. That's such a good analogy. So when we're talking about being with emotion, what does that look like? What does that mean?
How I interpret that was kind of launched from hearing this quote from Dr. Becky, who works with children and is a child psychologist. And she quoted, "Children are not afraid of their emotions, they're afraid of being alone in their emotions." And
Yeah.
that felt so
Yeah.
new to me because I have grown up
Mhm.
feeling scared of my emotions.
Right.
And so it was new to me to recognize I wasn't always that way.
Yeah.
There was a period in my life where I wasn't afraid of my emotions. I had just been left so alone navigating
Yeah.
them that then I became afraid of them.
Yeah.
And so being with is how can we be present with the emotion and the experience that we're having and soothing it, having compassion
Mhm.
towards it, witnessing it, validating it, like all the things we needed and deserve from growing up and from caregivers that maybe we didn't get or that we're continuing. We're
Yeah.
internalizing it. Maybe we did get that. And so it's just learning how to be in the presence of the emotion and feeling it and then providing what we need emotionally and tending to it.
Yeah. So, like, for sadness, for example, how have you learned to be with your sadness?
Yes. So a couple things I noticed for myself, and I wonder if other people have done this too. I didn't recognize that when I would cry, I would wipe it away very quickly. And
Mm,
recognizing that was signaling to my body, wrap it up. Let's kind
yeah,
of like,
yeah,
can we move on from this? And so I think there is a physical component of the way that we experience sadness that we can just kind of be aware of. Like, how do we signal to our bodies or how do we kind of shut it off? And then how could we allow it? So one of
yeah,
mine is I let the tears fall and I
yeah,
let them be present on my face and I let that exist.
yeah,
And then emotionally, I allow myself to be in the presence of sadness, as hard as that is, without always rationalizing it right away.
yeah,
I'm like, well, why am I
right.
sad? Well, why am I feeling this way? Just being like, I am sad. So naming
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
allowing it, validating it, like that makes sense. I would be sad today or that I'm feeling this way. And then I can comfort it.
yeah,
Like, I'm right here with
totally.
you in this sadness. You're not alone. Kind of bringing in that component that I'm not alone in this emotion. So that's not
Yeah,
scary.
totally. Yeah, I had one of my mentors was like I was like she was talking about being really sad and letting herself cry. And I think I said like, "Did you ever figure out like why you were crying?" And she's like, "No, I don't." This is super graphic, but she's like, I also don't stare at my poop and try and figure out what I ate." She's like, "I just let it out." And I was like, "Okay. Okay. Yeah." And I just
Totally
thought
the
like,
same thing.
yeah. It was because it was so graphic, it actually made an impression. I mean, like, of course,
Yeah.
I am so prone to meaning and making meaning. I mean, we all are obviously meaning
Hmm.
making creatures, but making meaning as a coping mechanism
Yeah.
for the out of control feeling that sadness sometimes brings up in me.
Hmm.
And I think the out of control feeling comes from feeling alone in my sadness as a kid.
Hmm.
Like my body has kind of learned like sadness means you're alone. And being alone does feel like you're out of control, like it could take you over, like what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So one of the ways that I cope with that feeling is to try and just figure out what I'm sad about. And so the other thing about sadness too is because it's probably the emotion most associated with crying. Crying is if you don't have for me crying felt like like a muscle.
Hmm.
Like I remember working with Cheryl Paul and she would be like, "Courtney, you need to make space every day to practice crying." Um, Not forever. I don't think everybody needs to do that all the time. But when I was processing something really heavy, I was stuck in anxiety because anxiety was my body trying to protect me from the sadness. And so, because it was scared of what would happen if I actually felt it. So I remember I would just like set a timer for 5 minutes and I would like like let my like listen to a sad song or like a deep song, and I would just like give myself permission to cry. And I feel like it took a lot of days in a row for me to be like able to cry freely. And now, me, now I cry literally. I think I cry like every single day, maybe not every day, at least every week about something, a Hallmark commercial, or something that was tricky or painful or whatever. And then you feel it and it's not scary and then it's over. And
Mhm.
that's how emotions are supposed to be processed. But back when I was learning to be with my own sadness, I like literally had to practice crying
Oh,
just
yeah,
to make
crying is still a hard one for me. It's still one
yeah,
that it takes a lot of permission giving, a lot of
yeah,
inviting in, and it's still a really tricky one of it's okay to cry. I like ignore that one until I can't help but cry. And I'm like, "Oh, I
right.
want it to feel easier." But it is a really uncomfortable one when
Yeah,
you're used to shutting it off for a long time.
yeah, totally. So, what about anger? How can you be with anger? I'm just going through the emotions on the Inside Out movie. Um, what does that look like?
Yeah, I'm laughing
Women,
because
especially, that's tricky.
it's really tricky. It's very, we're socialized that it's pretty unacceptable for women to be
Yeah, yeah,
angry. We're usually labeled as bitchy or, some other kind of demeaning term when women are angry about something. But I I'm laughing because I was thinking of like our anger songs, and
yeah.
when I was telling you, I'm like, oh, sometimes I listen to Prince.
Okay, wait. I'm sure we've told this story somewhere before. This is a great time to tell that story.
I know, it's so funny. I like the way
Can I
you
tell
tell
it?
it.
Yeah. I was like, can I? Because we were talking, so I think we both were kind of like learning about anger and like feeling our anger and just as women, like getting used to that. Sorry, I'm stretching. Um, we were both learning about how to be with our anger at the same time and like how expressive the invitation actually is
Yes.
when it comes to anger, and how we were both like, oh, like it's so different for us. That's so new. How do you even do that? And when I had a coach a long time ago, a few years ago, Kirsten Kelly, who like taught me to move it through your body. So you're just wanting to like rage out. I mean, literally, like I would listen to Rage Against the Machine and I would like feel it. And, or just like scream in my car, or not scream, but like just like, yell or like punch a pillow or whatever. And I asked you one time, we were both angry about the same thing. And I'm like, we just need to put on our angry music and just like get it out of our bodies and just feel it and move it out of our bodies. And you're like, yes, absolutely. And then you sent me your angry song.
I'm like, "Put
And
this
your angry
on."
song was, yeah, you're like, we're going to put this on, we're going to move it through our body. And you sent me Let's Go Crazy from Prince, which is like, which is like if cartoon characters get angry in a musical. It's like, but dun 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. And I was listening to this, just dying laughing, imagining you like punching a pillow
In my absolute rage.
in rhythm. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, dun. Oh my gosh. Hilarious. And I'm literally like cussing into my mirror listening to Rage Against the Machine, like the extremes.
It's so funny. Well, it's because I was at the gym and I was listening to a new song. I'm like, I think I have a new one. It was Sabotage by Beastie Boys. And I was like, this one's much better.
Yes, that's a good
Um,
one.
but I think you're right. Anger, especially, is one of those emotions that is embodied. And I was very
Yes.
severed from my body in the way of like, if it came through my body, I didn't feel it. I only felt it through my head and the way I analyzed it and thought about it. So I think allowing my body the space to communicate to me of like, oh, I'm feeling this. It did feel to me like pent up energy. Like I did
Yeah.
need to like walk or like when you talked about like kind of in your car, I do kind of growl, like it's kind of like a guttural, like a
Ah,
yeah,
like frustrated. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. And then I think some that I'm learning now that can be really helpful is like the squeezing of the fists as tight as you
Yep.
can and then releasing. So I'm like learning
Mm,
how to allow myself to feel these emotions, and anger also being one that was not allowed. Adults were
yeah.
allowed to be angry, children were not in my family system. So
Yeah.
any emotion that we were programmed or learned were not okay in our family systems that led to punishment or being ignored, or it just had a negative effect in our family systems, are going to be ones that we have a harder time with, just
Yeah.
naturally. And so anger is one of mine that
Yeah.
I was talking back, or I was bratty, or I was ungrateful or spoiled. So I tended to be looked at in a way that was really negative. So anger still shows up for me of like, oh, I can't feel that. I can't
Yeah.
allow myself to be angry.
Yeah.
And so being with it really looks like being present to the bodily component. What is my body trying to share to me and relate to me? What does it need? And then again, how can I kind of validate that and allow it space to exist? Just
Yeah.
permission that it
Yeah.
gets to be here. It has a seat at the table.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, I think one of the unhelpful things that I learned in my process was that an overemphasis on the idea that anger is a secondary emotion.
Hmm.
So what that means is like underneath anger is always sadness, and I was kind of rushed through my anger in order to get to the sadness and didn't know why I had so much like anxiety. But it's anxiety is fight or flight. So
Hmm.
like anger needs to be felt to experience. My body is trying to put up a fight on my behalf. It, and if I don't honor that, it doesn't even need to be valid. Like the trigger for anger doesn't even need to be like I don't even need to totally understand it, same as
Hmm.
sadness, but I need to work it through my body. And so I had to like kind of go back and learn like, oh no, anger is actually really important. The other thing that anger can turn into if it's not felt productively is blame. And that's
Hmm.
to me unproductive anger. When we're stuck in cycles of like, it's their fault, I'm not okay until they apologize, like, I can't believe them, we're having fights in our head, we are still stuck in a technically it's a sympathetic state. It's fight or flight state because we're not moving it through our body. So with anger, actually like feeling it and really honoring it, like, this was not okay.
Hmm.
And like, I'm just going to feel it. I don't totally understand it. There might even be different perspectives on the story, but like, at least this angry part of me, this reaction that I'm having, it needs to be honored and I need to express it.
Right.
And then when you do that, usually that's when you can get to the sadness underneath.
Right.
Like, that's the through line.
Absolutely. And I think every emotion deserves its honor. And I think we are afraid of
Yeah.
that, of honoring them,
Yeah.
because what if we get swept up in them? What if we get stuck in it? What if we fill in the blank
Yeah.
there? And the thing that we're recognizing more and more about emotions is when we do truly honor them, they have their own progression and recede all on their own. Like they
Yeah.
have their
Yeah.
own kind of natural cycle.
Yeah.
And we get stuck in them when we don't know how to ride the wave of them and let
Right.
them complete their own cycle.
Totally. Yeah. What about the emotion of fear? How can we be with our fear?
The way I want to, or at least the response that's coming up for me, is fear reminds me of relating to younger parts of me that did have experiences that felt really out of my control, or I felt helpless to them and brought on things that I was afraid of at that time. So, how I relate to my fear is recognizing, again, it has a seat at the table, it's communicating something to me, it's important. And how can I allow it the space to be there and validate it and recognize it and be present with it while it's there. I'm trying to think of when I'm afraid now. so I can give a little bit more concrete examples of this.
Yeah, I think between the two of us over the last 25 years, fear has definitely been more of an issue for me. I feel like, and maybe, I don't know if you would feel like you've talked about being overregulated.
Yeah.
I don't know if that would be like what that is, but I've definitely been a very highly sensitive person, and anxiety and fear have been really, really big for me. So learning how to be with fear wasn't just like an interesting idea. It was like the primary invitation for my healing journey. And so the important thing that I feel like I've learned about fear is that it needs to be taken seriously, but not literally.
Yeah.
Very, very few of the things that we're actually afraid of ever happen. So it's something like 95% of what we're afraid of never actually happens. So what does that mean? That means that our fear is coming from our body. It's like a reaction to the world around us. It's not like a reaction. It is a reaction. It's like allergies. So it's so interesting because we were talking about this at a retreat that I was at, and it was a Christian retreat, and they talked about like, do not be anxious for anything, that Bible verse. And I remember that back in my deep, deep, deep Bible studying days, which you were there around for, I remember really getting into like the Greek and the Hebrew and finding that the actual meaning of that word in that Bible verse, do not be anxious. Um, the meaning of that word anxious is to cut into pieces. So do not cut yourself into pieces. And this lines up with emotional health and emotional wellness, because emotional unhealth is cutting off parts of yourself, not knowing how to be with parts of yourself, shaming parts of yourself, shaming experiences that you have. And full integration means being with every single
Mm-hmm.
part of you. So when we're with our fear, a couple of things have to happen. We have to know who our adult self is. We have to, and if we don't, then that's a great time to get support. If we really feel like I can't be with my fear without
Yeah. Being
catastrophe or
overcome.
like
Mm-hmm.
shutting down, being overwhelmed, whatever, then we might need support. And that's totally, I definitely did. And that's totally fair and fine. But eventually we will learn how to like recognize that we can hold fear in our body without becoming it.
Mm-hmm.
And so the analogy of like, if my son runs into my room and he's like, there's monsters under my bed. Oh my gosh, I'm so afraid. There's monsters under my bed. And I'm like, oh my God, what? How many teeth do they have? Do we need to move? What are we going to do? Then I'm believing his fear. And then we're both sunk because there's no adult in the room. And we're both just afraid and spiraling. But then if he comes into my room and he's like, Mom, there's monsters under my bed. I'm afraid. And I'm like, monsters don't even exist. Go back to bed. Then I'm ignoring his fear and I'm not soothing him and helping him with it, which we also do with ourselves. So I feel like the journey for fear is really understanding that your fear is just your body reacting to the world around you based on what it thinks might hurt you. And what it thinks might hurt you is based on what you've been through up to the past. So it's just such an invitation for so much compassion. And it's also another one where you want to work it through your body. So like I always move my body. If I'm noticing anxiety or panic or fear or stage fright or nerves or whatever, like muscle contractions, I'm always like honoring that fear, like
Mm-hmm.
by letting it come out. Like, okay, fear, you're trying to protect me. You're filling me with fight or flight energy. So like, let's move it through our body.
Yeah.
Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Absolutely. Yes. And using that same analogy, if my son comes into my room and is like, there's a monster in my bed and I'm really afraid, what I would have done is I would have been like, well, how do you know that you're afraid? Well, did you hear something? I would like analyze the crap
Yes.
out of it. And then
Yeah.
I would come to the conclusion, do I have a right to be afraid or not? Like I would judge it. Do I have a right to be
Yes.
afraid or not
Is
based
this
on the way I
justified or
analyzed
not?
it?
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's like a third way I never thought of. Yeah, you're totally right. Like analyzing it to justify whether or not we're actually
Yeah.
the fear is allowed.
And unless it was blatantly obvious, like there is an actual thing under my bed, I always discounted it. I would debunk it
Right.
every time.
Totally. Totally. Which is really why I think a trauma-informed education should be standard for all of us, because I couldn't understand why, if I'm not actually being chased by a lion, why does my body reacting like it is?
Yeah, right.
And it wasn't until I understood trauma that I understood that, but before I understood trauma, I just thought I was going crazy, or I thought I was just I started thinking it feels like paranoia. You're like, "Maybe the world is a dangerous place all the time, and I am in
Yeah.
danger all the time." So, yeah, you're totally right. Like, the justification for the fear being the thing that keeps us from it or away from it is also another thing that we do that's not helpful.
Yeah, where I think I always learned from you that you had this sensitivity to your body, this connection to your body that I didn't always have. I would like analyze
Mm.
everything. My first filter was through my head. And so I'm learning how to come back online to my body of like,
Yeah.
oh, I didn't even know I was doing that. I didn't even
Yeah.
know that I had this reaction in my body. And so it can present just differently, but can have a similar, root or experience that is present, but present differently.
Did it frustrate you when, as your friend, I would, like, point out to you that you were actually just afraid?
It would, well, you have to understand that because my defense and protection was to think, if you saw something before I did, or you thought of something before I did, that part of me felt like it failed its job, that it didn't think of
Right.
something before you did.
Yeah. So it's
So
like unmask yeah,
yeah,
totally.
it was like,
Unmasking
how'd
your
she
protector.
know?
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
That's my job. So it was now just recognizing that I am having a feeling and how close you are to me, that you're so attuned to me, that protective part is really taken a back seat. But it didn't it didn't offend me. It was more like I didn't shame, like it would bring up shame. I didn't know how to do my
Right.
job and someone else saw it before I did.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Because I mean, I do. I annoy people all the time with that habit of mine of like, or maybe it's not a habit, maybe it's just more, I do genuinely feel so fascinated by all of this. And I think I just more and more and more feel like, listen, we're all humans. We're all just human beings. And we all do things and we all have crazy things. Like, why would anybody be ashamed of like what their reactions are? But that is not how people feel. That's not how a lot of people feel.
Mhm.
And I am, kind of, I think it's come up a lot lately where I'm like, oh, you didn't want me to mention that? I'm like, but it's so obvious. I'm like, it's the elephant in the room. Like, obviously you're terrified right now, right? Like, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
And realizing like that, I mean, I'm not doing that to like strangers on the street, but to some of my friendships, I feel like I've maybe pushed the boundaries a little bit too much because I just genuinely feel so fascinated. And I'm having to like realize, oh, everybody has their own timeline and their own process. And I think I've just been in this world for so long. I still have so much healing to do, or whatever you could say. I still have a lot. I'm like mid process, mid journey, mid life. But I think I like forgot that like it feels scary to have that stuff pointed out or uncomfortable or shaming.
Yeah, it feels
Uh,
exposing and
Exposing. Yeah. And
yeah.
I don't want to do that.
Yeah. Well,
I
you and I talked about
feel
that too, that
self-conscious.
one of the things that I didn't recognize is when you saw something in me or my emotions before I did, or you pointed them out, even if I knew, I told you, I'm like, this is like an antique shop. And I have everything laid out perfectly the exact way I want it.
It's like
And
a
you can,
museum in here,
yes,
Courtney.
you can come in sometimes when I invite you in, but don't touch anything.
And I'm like, "Hey, what's this? What's this?
Yes,
Look at
you were like
this." I'm
manhandling
just
it. And
Yeah. Fair, fair.
and I was like, I didn't recognize how scared I was to how fragile it felt. I did not know that about
Mm,
my own
yeah,
emotions because I just had only ever
yeah,
thought about my emotions in like
yeah,
very rationalized way, a very objective way, instead of,
yeah,
oh, this feels something to me and in my body. And shame was a
Really?
very pinnacle part of that. That I
Yeah.
felt shame just by even feeling an emotion, just by having one.
Yeah.
Everyone else could have one. I was really good at that. I did not have that same permission and
Yeah,
didn't
for
recognize that
yourself.
I could. Yeah. So you pointing it out was like, oh, I can't have that. I failed that I even had
Right.
one and that you saw it.
Right. Do you notice this too as a therapist? What I notice as a coach and consultant is like people pay me to go into their museums, to go into their antique shops. They wanna know. They wanna know what's in there. And so I feel like I almost have picked up maybe some less than helpful social habits because I'm just so used to people being like, "What is this? What is this? What do I do with this?"
Hmm.
I'm like, "Oh, well, that's that. Oh, look at that over there. And like, let's connect these 2 things and let's clean this up and let's heal this and be with this." And do you ever notice that for yourself, or are you just way more mature than me? Way wiser and better?
I mean,
I don't
you
think
know,
I'm reckless. I just notice these areas of
no, I
polishing
think,
for sure.
well, and I think by the way that you do that and you are able to connect the things, you give a lot of normalcy to them. Like, I'm
That's what I
sure it's
hope to
intentional.
do. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
But for me, that was never normal.
Right.
So I like
Yeah.
learned that through our friendship and you that like, oh, this really is normal. I just never
Yeah.
knew that. I think
Yeah.
with clients, sometimes I feel like I get the sense of probably what I have done too. Like people want to show me their museums and are interested, but also they can tend to show me just what they want to show me because it is
Yeah.
so personal and it's
Yeah.
exposing and uncomfortable. So I get both of those things. Yes, there are the people who are
Yeah.
like, what is this? Like, I know I have this. I'm not sure what this is. And we can do that too. And I can recognize some people in the beginning, especially, it's comfortable to just show up to a certain point. And then there's
Yeah.
other things that are kind of roped off or we're not ready yet. And I get
Totally.
that too.
I don't. Just kidding. I'm like, "Let's go there, guys. Come on. We don't got
I
time to
know.
waste." Okay. We did anger. No, we did sadness, anger, fear. Um, do you have anything to say for disgust? It's actually
Mm.
been a really huge part of my journey. I remember, Irene Lyon talking about she's like a somatic practitioner, talking about how important your relationship with disgust is if you struggle with shame.
Yeah, I was like, do I want to talk about disgust? I'm like,
Yeah, right.
it was one I met face to face this last year. And it was a really tough one. It was a really, really
Yeah.
tough one. And I think when you're with someone face to face, you can see it's like I had to visually put my face in a position of like, ugh, like just that whole physical part of disgust is what I
Yeah,
felt internally with my shame.
totally.
And yeah, it makes me emotional now. That was a hard,
I know, it
hard
makes me
one.
emotional, I remember that. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
really hard.
Yeah,
And I
it
think
was.
when we oh, sorry, what was that?
I said, yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, right. When we have these experiences that we never wanna think about again as a kid, you could call it shadow work, kind of put it in the background, or you could call it exiles. Basically, these disintegrated parts. So we are cutting ourselves into pieces. We don't wanna see this part of us. When healing invites us to look at this part of us, there is like a blech, like, ugh, I don't ever like because if it's like if you put it's like decay, it's like not only is it the experience, but it's like the aging of the experience and like it
Yeah.
grows in like fear and pain. And to look at it, it's like, ugh, it just feels so, so, so hard. And disgust is protective. It is trying to protect you from something that it thinks is going to hurt you in the same way that your body has that like disgust reaction if you're putting like moldy cheese, up to your mouth. Like it's like, ugh, no, 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 don't do that.
Mhm.
So, like, to be able to be with disgust on your way towards being with those exiled parts is so important. Otherwise, it'll keep you from really getting to the depths of what you actually had to experience.
Yeah. And I think what it brought up for me and what I do notice in the work that I do is that it was what I felt as a kid. I felt people relate to me as if I was disgusting.
That's disgusting. Yeah.
And
Because of what
that
you
was new for me.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So it was like, oh, I feel disgusting, but also I feel this way because I felt like that's how people felt about me
Yeah.
and felt towards me. And being with that was a really challenging, but very, very important. I walked around with that, whether I knew that I was feeling that or not underneath, that was present in the ways that I showed up
Yeah.
in relationships and in my life and the ways I kept myself hidden or protected myself. So I think sometimes we're afraid if we look at these things, we're going to create something that we otherwise wouldn't. But the reality is they're there. They're always
Yeah.
present
Yeah.
in our inside and in our emotions and in our body. But when we look at them, we're just kind of shining a light on them. We're not creating them. We're exposing them in a way that we can tend to them, that we can give them what they actually need. We can be present with them instead of just
Yeah.
constantly turning away or denying or ignoring that they even exist. They're
Yeah.
there. They already exist.
Yeah. Right. Right, totally. Yeah. Um, okay, lastly, you just recorded your own meditation for being with joy.
Yeah.
And I thought, like, what a great one to start with. What a great emotion to start with. Because I know that you want to put out like meditations and support like guides for each emotion, each emotional experience.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, like, why did you start with joy and why did you start with joy? Why is it important to be with joy? And how can we be with joy? Go.
Yes. Okay. I started with joy because it's one of the emotions that I think makes us go like, "What?" Like
Yeah,
we can
totally.
kind of understand like, "Oh, yeah, I
Why
really
do I
should
need to be
learn."
with joy?
Yeah, I really should learn how to be with sadness. I really should learn how to do that. But with joy, we're like, "What? Why would I need to do that? I feel happy. I feel
Right.
joy." But I realized in my learning about trauma work and my own healing that I'm like, "Oh, we heal to experience more joy." And that
Yeah.
it can feel very vulnerable and was very vulnerable for me to experience joy. And if we can
Yeah.
start there of increasing our capacity and our ability for it to feel safe enough to feel joy in the present moment, to me, that feels pinnacle. That's why we heal all the other emotions. That's why we work
Yeah.
through our trauma is to
Grow
get there.
capacity. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, why don't we just start there? Why don't we start with
Yeah.
joy and allow people to come in? Because you're right, it is going to be one of a series of, I'm calling it Be With. And I figured let's start with Be With Joy so people knew what this was going to look like, what was going to be helpful to them, and then allow them the opportunity to also be with sadness, be with anger, and all the other
Yeah.
emotions that we're going to do.
Yes, totally. And you had a really good question on the guide that I got to peek at yesterday, which was, oh, you have like, so you have people go through the meditation and then you, like, I imagine you have them, sit with joy, like, like
Mhm.
maybe go back to a joyful moment
Yeah.
and then you ask the question, how hard was it for you to be with joy? How long were you able to actually be there? A couple seconds,
Yeah.
couple, moments? Why did you ask those questions specifically?
Yeah. I asked especially how hard was it because of shame. If people feel
Yeah.
like I should be able to experience joy, what's wrong with me that I can't? I wanted to normalize it is a very vulnerable and hard emotion to experience.
Yeah.
And so if it was hard, that's okay. That
Yeah.
is normal. And that's just data that we're collecting from the
Yeah.
very first time we're doing this. And I wanted people to have a point of reference for them to keep doing it. And like, oh my gosh, I was able to do this longer the
Yeah.
second time, the third time, where progress, as you know, is not so linear. It's like I could do it for 15 minutes or I couldn't do it at all. It's like
Right. Like
small amounts
stretch our
of change.
capacity.
Yeah. Of
Yeah.
growth over time. It's a muscle. And that's what I really wanted people to have some data points of like, oh my gosh, I'm growing my muscle. And I wouldn't have known
Yeah.
that otherwise.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to
Yeah.
normalize, was this hard for you? And then to have a data point of like, was it only a couple seconds or moments or minutes? And I just want to say, I was able to experience joy the first time I did this for 8 seconds. That was it. And
Mm.
immediately it was like, well, no, because remember that day. So I am in the meditation, people are going to pull a joyful memory. And even that, I was like, well, that wasn't totally joyful because remember after that,
Right.
this
Your
thing
brain is trying
happened.
to like disconnect from it. Yeah.
Yeah, and protect me from,
Yeah.
joy and
The
what that feels
vulnerability of
like.
joy. Yeah.
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 And like when you look at kids and joy, like my little toddler right now, when he's like so excited about something, he's like, like his whole
Yeah.
body and his face and his arms are just like, he is
Yeah.
totally embodying joy.
Yeah.
I'm like, that is really vulnerable when we
Yeah.
have had moments throughout our life that took it away or that
Yeah.
cut us down or shamed us or embarrassed us for our joy. Over time, it
Yeah.
doesn't feel safe.
Yeah. So beautiful. I think the goal in all of this, I mean, you think about, I grew up with Bible verses like joy, just the concept, like, consider it pure joy, my brothers, like joy in everything. Toxic positivity is obviously a thing, but really understanding that the ultimate joy is presence, and learning to be with each of your emotions is, I think, what makes even the hard parts of life give you this experience of joy, because joy is connection, it's presence.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get, the more that you're able to be with, like, for example, yesterday had a super hard conversation and you just sat with me on the phone afterwards, and like we just were together in it. And that, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I would say that was probably like your joy to be with me in that. And not joy like Disneyland joy or Christmas morning joy, but like to be with, man, I'm just gonna cry. Like, to be with, this is nothing new for my friends and my audience. To be with somebody, it's such an honor.
Yeah.
It's such an honor to be with somebody in their process. It is a joy to be with you in your process. And in the same way, when we're talking about emotional health, it's getting to a point where it's a joy to be with all of the experiences of being in a human body. That is
Yeah.
our joy. That is health.
Yes, that is our human experience.
Yes, right.
Yeah, that's
What
us
a
in
gift.
our humanity.
Yeah,
And I wanted
with
to be able
ourselves
to
and with
offer
each
that.
other.
Yes. Yeah. And to allow people, someone to journey with them if they weren't
Yeah.
able to or don't have access to that.
Yeah, totally. Where can people find my friend?
So I'm on Instagram as relational.psychotherapist
Mm-hmm.
or my website, bagatocounseling.com. And so I have resources on my website. I have the podcast episodes I've been with you on, and then it's also linked to my Instagram. So either one of those works to be able to find me, but you can find me in those 2 places.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for coming today. I love you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Hope that all of you guys have such a great week, and